Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Dr. John Michael Salvano, your organic living and peak performance coach. And this is day 41 or 42, I've lost track, of our 200-day Mindshift Mastery Program, day 43. And today we're talking about mismatching, which is one of the easiest obstacles that you'll ever have to overcome in your business process. And I'm excited about this because this is the next 10 days are curriculum that have never been presented in the Mindshift Mastery Series. The Mindshift Mastery Series has generally been focused on presenting one small shift that you can make in your mental process, in your mindset on a daily basis. And it's been a perfect program as is. However, what we found is that because we talked a few weeks back about the 80-20 rule. Because the 80-20 rule always manifests itself in this, where 20% of the people do 80% of the work, 80% of the results, are being generated by 20% of the people. We also always see about 80% of the people in this program when we start, lose their commitment and just disappear and fall by the wayside and fall back into mediocrity. Usually within the first quarter of the program, and that's certainly proven to be true this time. And in fact, this time there are three people from the entire beginning of this program who are still working the program with us on a daily basis. So kudos to Ita and to Jennifer and to Robert from the original program, and of course Diana and Tommy who've joined us since then. But you guys are the ones that are here, and so I thought it would be really nice. I was going to because I knew that some holidays were coming up for some people. I was going to do a summer hiatus to give people a couple of weeks off for their family stuff, and the months and days when different people were taking their holidays were scattered, so I couldn't accommodate everybody that way, and I wasn't willing to take a month off. So then what happened last week was the electricity went out, so we got a forced hiatus of a week. And in that period of time, I said, you know what, I think it would be nice to build these other mind shifts upon some better sales skills, because I was looking at and talking to some of the people that were involved, and I was seeing some of the challenges that they have and some of the successes that they have. And I thought, wow, there's a couple things I can do here to sort of take their results to the next level. So we started talking about the sales process itself, and I think that this is a good topic. I'd love to hear you guys' feedback and when I'm done with my ideas for the day. I'd like to hear if you think that this sharing sales strategies is of value to you, or if you don't, if you'd rather go strictly back to mindset. But why I thought that it would work is that every single moment of every single day, with every relationship that you encounter, you're selling. Whether you're selling product or not is not relevant. But you're selling something. You're selling your ideas. You're selling your agenda. You're selling that relationship. You're selling moving things forward. And that other person is doing the same thing. So if I can teach you selling skills and we put them in the context of our business, you can then take some of these concepts, especially today's concept, and apply it to your personal life, apply it to your spiritual life, apply it to your community life, and you're going to find that this strategy alone was worth the cost of admission, because it is going to eliminate so much resistance in your life. So let's dig in. The concept of mismatching, it might be something that I think for probably most of you, you've never heard before. It's not something you find in sales trainings. The internet marketing gurus don't teach mismatching. You don't even find it in some of the old classic sales technique books. Mismatching is a reflex. I want you to kind of think of it in this way: mismatching is a form of disagreement. It's almost instinctual, and while it doesn't happen 100% of the times, it is still a reflex. Now, some people will say that it's an innate reflex, and that to some degree it happens every time with every statement that you make. I'm not 100% convinced of that. but it's responsible for 95 or 97% of all lost sales, and so that's a pretty significant number of lost sales to when you really look at it. And here's an example of how mismatching works. Have you ever run across somebody and they seem to respond to everything you say with a contradiction? Now, I'm not talking about somebody who's just contradictory because they don't like you, but I'm talking about somebody that you like, somebody who's, maybe it's your next door neighbor, maybe it's a family member, maybe it's a parent, and you say, wow, today is such a beautiful day. And they respond and say, oh, it is so hot out today. Or you say, I just got a new car. I love my Honda CRV. And they say, really? I heard those were just gas guzzlers. Those are examples of what mismatching is all about. See, that person's not trying to be argumentative or disagreeable or difficult, but just like blinking happens without your thinking about it, that blinking is a physical reflex. Mismatching is an emotional reflex. And it's an emotional reflex that I'm going to explain a little bit, and I've got tons of notes today, so this is not going to be off the cuff. Although it's unscripted, there's a lot to cover. So I would recommend that while I'm looking at my notes, that you guys make sure you have something to write with. I want to say too that from the psychological perspective, mismatching is not a programmed response. We don't learn mismatching. So it's not a matter of this is a good person, a bad person, this person has certain skills, doesn't have certain skills. We innately as people, we are drawn to want to come together. We want to agree on things. We want to be on the same page. Agreement's an emotional bond that brings us together. But when people are feeling the need, because from the time we were young, we're told don't talk to strangers. So we feel the need in our daily lives to be safe, to be cautious, to be unwilling to share our needs until we know what that other person's agenda is, until we're certain that we want to come together with that person. The mismatching developed at an organic level, at an instinctual level, for us to protect ourselves. So it's not a bad thing. It's a form of resistance that communicates disagreement. And so, when we think of disagreement, we often think that that's something that, somebody's being disagreeable. Disagreement is, it just means that we're not on the same page, and we're maybe not on the same page yet. So this instinctual defense mechanism arises from really an intuitive level. And people want to feel like that in a conversation there's value being added. So think about this. Think about if you say, it's a gorgeous day out, and that other person says, I agree. What value did that other person bring to that conversation by saying I agree? Absolutely nothing. You recognized that it was a gorgeous day. They said, I agree. There's no value added there. So there's nothing upon which you guys can come together by their doing so. So every single person wants to feel like they're contributing value to a conversation. So that person can do one of two things. You say it's beautiful out. That person can come up with another contribution to it's beautiful, in which case they'd have to stop and think, well, he just said it's beautiful. How can I add value to that? Because beautiful is beautiful. Well, the way to add more value is to add more information. And so that person is, may instinctively say, it's really hot. Now, you're going to interpret that as them pushing back. But what's really happening is that person's trying to add value to the conversation. And they're trying to add value by adding information. So keep that in your notes, that in every conversation, both parties are wanting to add information to the conversation, because that's where we discover our common ground. That's how we discover our common ground. So people are natural mismatchers. You say this is, it looks like it's going to be a fantastic week. They say, I heard it's going to rain on Tuesday. They're just adding more information. And so there are four different types of mismatching that occur. The first one we've just talked about, that's the contradiction. It's the most common form of mismatching, And the contradiction is probably, I think, the most reflexive, the most organic kind of mismatch. Putting this in a sales presentation. Let's see, I've got some examples here. Um, you walk in and you say, I prepared an agenda for today's webinar, and I'd like to begin by talking a little bit about performance and effectiveness and growth, and then we can talk about your ongoing maintenance with us and your ongoing education process with us. Now, the prospect's natural form of contradiction is going to be to say, I think it's a little bit premature to talk about my ongoing commitment when I don't even know if I want to do this at all. You see, that seems like they're just being disagreeable, but what they're trying to do is add information because you weren't maybe as clear about your agenda, and you tried to spew everything at once. Hey, let me tell you about my amazing skin cream. It does this, 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 and this, and you can get on our auto ship program, and we'll send it to you every month. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa! I don't want your auto ship program. I don't even know if I like the product yet. That's mismatching. That's the person pushing back because they want to be able to contribute information, and you're just pushing things a little bit too fast. Then there's the second form of mismatching. That one's called unnecessary clarification, or I call it unnecessary clarification. So let's say that you're an engineer and you come into to a very important meeting with a company, with a decision maker for a company, and you say, our old system has consistently been out of now you're I'm the prospect. I say, the old system that we have for our air conditioning has, or we'll say our computer system, has constantly been down for at least 1 hour every single day. And it's crazy, and this is unacceptable. We're looking to find a new computer system. We want to find a system whose downtime is no more than 15 minutes because this is costing us business. Now, the mismatch doesn't have to come from the prospect. Sometimes we're the ones, as salespeople, we're the ones who are mismatching. So the mismatch might be that you say, actually, I looked at your system's logs, and your downtime's only 55 minutes a day. So see, you just said as a sale, the prospect said, we're down for about an hour every day. You said, well, actually, I looked at your logs. You're down for about 55 minutes every day. Now, you weren't trying to disagree with them. You were trying to tell them that you know exactly how much they're down every day. But in doing so, you just pushed back against that prospect. So see, you could do the same thing. That person can say, I really don't understand why I'm not losing weight. I've tried every diet program out there. Most of those dieting programs say you should consume about 2,000 calories a day, and I'm consuming 2,000 calories a day, so I should be losing weight. I just don't know why I'm not, and that's not acceptable for me. And then you, as Mr. Weight Loss Person or Miss Weight Loss Person, say, well, actually, 2,000 calories a day is for men. You're a woman. You should be consuming 1,800 calories a day. The point is, so what? That prospect's communicating to you that they've tried everything, and it's not working. Don't push back by correcting them with unnecessary clarifications. Talk about the solutions you can bring them. And then, of course, the third type is probably, for me, it's the most annoying type of mismatch, and that's the one-upmanship. That's the person who, when you say, I've got to do blah 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 because I'm or I don't know. I hate examples of it because I can't even think of it. You say, hey, I'm so excited because I sold a new set of our products. One-upmanship is one of the other members on your team saying, oh, I sold too. Or I'm so thrilled because I was able to get up this morning at 8:30 and get to work. And I'm not a morning person. One-upmanship pushes back and says, I was up at 7:45. Again, it seems like the person is just trying to be disagreeable, but what they're really trying to do is add value to the conversation by adding information. And I'm going to keep on saying that because that's the important thing I want you to remember. Whenever you feel like somebody's pushing back, stop and take a look to see if that person's pushing back because they just want to be they just want to be a bitch, or do they want to add value? Are they struggling to find a way of putting more information in the conversation? And if you recognize that, if you say, they're trying to add value to this conversation, they just want to add information, then it's no longer offensive, and you can really be relaxed in that situation, because a person who's trying to sell or market a product who's relaxed is able to find out what the customer's needs are a whole lot easier than when you're stressed. I think we'll all agree about that. So now the next form and final form of mismatching is the I know. And that might not seem like mismatching to you, but that's when you talk to somebody and you say, that one of the most important things when you're trying to lose weight is being able to get your metabolism working again. Yeah, I know. And one of the ways we can do that is by helping to get the body back into a state of ketosis, which means the body's burning fat at a more optimal level. I know. Well, we've got a product that's got ingredients in it, and these ingredients include blah, 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 and blah, 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 and coconut oil is a terrific ketone. I know. You see, that person is really communicating to you, give me some information to work with that I don't already know. Now, 9 times out of 10, they didn't know those last 3 things that you said. But they want to be able to contribute what? Information. And so by saying I know, it's just a reflex that a lot of people have. You might say, I heard that that the country commission or the county commission rather is considering a tax reduction for commercial properties in Fulton County here in Atlanta. That person says, yeah, I know, I saw that last week. That's mismatching. That's you not coming together with that person. So how do we get around mismatching? If it's something that's instinctual, if it's something that happens on a reflexive basis, and we've just pointed out that it doesn't just happen with the prospect, it happens with us as well. So sometimes we're the ones who are mismatching. Sometimes we're the ones who are bringing about that pushback, and that gets in the way of our sales as well. So this is the top. These are the mind shifts for today. Before I jump into what the mind shifts are, let's go ahead and hear from you guys. Unmute yourselves. When talking about mismatching in general, does that make sense to you? Are there questions you have about mismatching before we talk about how to reduce the number of mismatches? Ita? Can't hear you. Oh wait, let's turn your microphone up. I see. Here we go. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Hi. Yes, it was intriguing just listening to all of what you said, because from what I've written down and what I was trying to listen to with the children coming in, it's basically our communication skills is what you're talking about, and it's one of the points you just brought out now just recently was we haven't given the right, we're not basically we're not thinking before we speak, we're not giving the right information, we're not letting the other person get their information across. So mismatching can be on both sides, because we're not giving enough time to think for the other person or for us.
Right.
Have I got that right?
You've got that right. And you're also maybe not positioning that exchange of information, which is what a conversation is. You're not positioning that exchange of information in a way that allows that other person to contribute information so that they feel like they're a valuable part of the process. That's why people, think that when they talk to a salesman, the salesman is doing something to them, because the salesman goes through their script, and the script is blah 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 blah, and then a question at the end, wouldn't you agree? Well, of course, the natural tendency is going to be to say no, because they want to be able to say something, and if they say yes, they know the salesperson is going to go back into step 2 of the script and blah 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 blah. So they don't feel like they matter. When we think about that in our relationships, if you came into your home and you said to your husband or wife, I'm really aggravated. The kids are this and that. Then how does another person interpret that? It's nagging or attacking or adversarial. But if you say, wow, I just really had a very difficult day. Have you got a couple minutes for me to just, kind of express and vent and release some of my frustration? Let them say yes or no. Maybe at that moment they're not willing to be present to you. They need to go take a shower. They need to take a run. They need to get their head together or unwind themselves because they just had a bad day. And then when you come together, you can say, okay, this has been a really stressful day, but I understand you weren't ready to talk about it earlier. Sounds like you had a stressful day too. You want to go first? Tell me what's going on. How do you think that's going to change the dynamics of that relationship? When you go walk into that prospect and you say, what, my purpose for being here is to find out what you've tried in the past that hasn't worked for you, and maybe get to the bottom of what a better solution might look like. What do you think a better solution might look like? That's one of my favorite approaches. When somebody comes to me and they're looking for a business opportunity, I'm going to say, so tell me a little bit about what you've done in the past, and obviously there have been some good things about that and some things that you might not like, and tell me why some of those things you've tried in the past didn't work, and what do you think a good solution for you might look like? Because I really can't begin to determine whether I'm going to have something that's a good fit for you until I understand what you're looking for. And that, when you can always hear it or feel it on the call, that when you do that, that person's shoulders go from rigid to relaxed. They almost like audibly breathe a sigh of relief because you're not going to, they don't feel like you're going to be pitching them. And a lot of times they'll say, so put your wallet away because this isn't a conversation about selling you something. And I really mean that. I frustrate some people that have been in my uplines in the past because they hear me say put your wallet away, and they're like, John Michael, you could make the sale right there and right then and there. And my response to them is, if that's true, if I'm so good at what I do that person is certain to be coming on board, then why does it matter whether they come on board right this minute or in 10 minutes or next week? Isn't it all about them and not about me? So if I just say, put your wallet away, this isn't about selling you something. This is about finding out what your needs are. That person is automatically taken off their guard, and they are, ready to exchange information. And they're going to give me all the information I need to close the sale if the sale is appropriate. So I want you guys to put that in your notes. If you allow the prospect to talk and you ask the right questions, that prospect will give you all the information you need to be able to make a sale if the sale is appropriate. If the sale is not appropriate, then they're going to give you all the information that you need to understand that you're not a good match for what they're looking for. When somebody comes to me, and this is the best example I can give, somebody comes to me and says, oh, I need to make money, and this happened last week. I need to make money so badly. I'm in 4 programs. Those programs haven't worked. My uncle just put me in another program. He paid my way in, and these things aren't working. They were ridiculously crazy programs. One was an energy company. So what? You're going to try and start a business where you compete with the biggest power companies in your area who are spending millions and millions of dollars to get your customers away from you and back on board with them? That doesn't make sense. Another one was a vaporware deal where they were selling something that had absolutely no value, but it was a money game. Another one was one of these get paid for doing for doing surveys. Yeah, 20 cents a pop for surveys. It's going to take you an awful long time to make your first $5, let alone your first 5,000. And so they're telling me, and I said, so what are you looking at? What do you need? Well, they're about to turn our electricity off. I have to buy groceries for the kids, and my rent's due next week. And I said, okay, from that information you've just given me, it sounds like we're looking at about $1,200 that you need to make by the end of next week. Yes. And you need to have that cash by the end of next week. Yes. Well, then this isn't a good conversation for us to have. My recommendation for you is to go and get a part-time job because you need cash in your hand next week. And the way that most legitimate companies work is you work for a month and then you get your commission check about 2 weeks after that. on the 15th of the following month. So can I help you to change your financial future? Absolutely. But you don't have a penny to spend. You're telling me that you can't even buy groceries for the kids, so I know that you're not going to be buying toothpaste and mouthwash and deodorant and laundry soap when the kids haven't eaten yet. Your rent is due next week, and your electricity is getting turned off tomorrow. So is this a good time for you to get involved in my business? Absolutely not. But most entrepreneurs, most network marketers would ignore those facts and say, well, let me tell you, you can make some good money in my company because my upline, is making $25,000 a month. What did that have to do with that person? Where was the concern and the compassion? Well, I'll tell you where, because the typical rep doesn't listen. And so if you give that person an opportunity to tell you what their needs are, then you will know they'll give you all the information you need to close the sale if the sale is appropriate, if what you're offering is appropriate. If it's not a good fit, you didn't fail, they didn't fail, you both succeeded because you've now uncovered one more area that's going to give them clarity on what they need to do next. And I promise you this, and I've seen it happen time and time again, I've had folks who've been part of my business who had financial disasters come up that they weren't able to remain part of my business because they just had zero cash flow. And I promise you, when you care enough about those people, and you care more about those people than you care about the bottom line, you care about your commissions, and you care about building your own business, those people will come back to you when that need arises in their lives again, and their financial situations are better. So you're only setting yourself up to win by setting the other person up to win first. So let's talk a little bit about, and I realize that I have already used my half an hour, and as I said yesterday, these sessions are going to go about 10 or 15 minutes over every day. And if you need to run because the kids are home or whatever, I totally understand that. You can watch the replay. We're totally cool on that. I don't get offended by stuff like that. But just very quickly, I want to go over a couple strategies. How do you avoid mismatching? Well, the first thing you do, we just started to talk about it indirectly, and that is ask more questions. When you say, it's supposed to be nice this weekend, that's easily mismatched because you didn't ask a question. So that person could say, no, it's going to be too hot, it's going to be too windy, it's going to be too humid, whatever. When you say, your boss needs to be at the presentation next week, well, there's no need for anyone to be involved at this point. Is an easy mismatch. So it's virtually impossible to make a statement that can't be contradicted. But it's also virtually impossible to ask a question that can be mismatched. Because if you're asking a question, you're asking them for information. And contributing information is the whole reason why they're mismatching in the first place. So ask more questions, make less statements. Credibility reduces your prospect's need to resist as well. So like when you're establishing credibility, it should be one of your primary objectives in starting that conversation should be to establish credibility. And so a lot of times I'll say, just to kind of give you a little background on myself, I've been in this industry for 35 years. I've been fortunate enough to be a top producer for 28 of those 35 years. And I'm telling you this not to impress you, but to impress upon you that in order to get there, I had to listen to a whole lot of BS. I had to hear a whole lot of hype and empty promises. And I can appreciate the struggle of the person who's looking for a home business right now, because I know how hard it is to find somebody who's really willing to listen to you. Now, I just built credibility, and I built an expectation in the mind of that prospect that says, this person's going to want to hear my story. That's pretty exciting. They start to get excited not because there's a possibility they're going to make money. They get excited because somebody's going to friggin' listen to them for the first time in their lives. Maybe the first time that day. Maybe the biggest frustration and the reason that person is looking for a home-based business is to have people to engage with, because they're at home with the kids all day, and their husband comes home late at night and he's exhausted and he doesn't want to talk, or their wife comes home and she doesn't want to talk, and they just want to be able to interact with people every day. Maybe money's secondary, and you let them know you're willing to listen. Wow, I'm not even in the business yet, and I have someone to talk to. How cool is that? Now, curiosity is also a great neutralizer for mismatching. And so if you can watch the dynamics of the conversation, when a person's curious, then what's going to happen? They're going to start to listen more closely, and they're going to start to contribute more authentic information. And so making sure that and we're going to talk about how you do each one of these things as we're moving forward in the next 2 weeks. But also, here's one of my favorite ways to eliminate mismatching, and I talk about it in the blog. I want you to think about what happens in 90% of the sales scripts that I've ever seen for network marketing or insurance sales or real estate sales or any kind of sales. Is you walk in the door, and I want you guys to answer me. I don't know if you've already read the blog, you could cheat. But if you haven't read the blog, feel free to jump in and answer me. What would you, when you want to find out if you're interrupting somebody, what would the first thing, what does your typical sales script say? Hi, this is Johnny. I'm calling you from Herbalife. What's the next question that they ask you? Ita, go ahead and jump in because you're the only one with a microphone.
I don't actually do sales scripts. I'm sorry. I know you asked me to jump in. I haven't read the blog, but no. I mean, I don't. I don't have sales scripts. I don't.
Okay, but in seeing them, would it be fair to say that in the sales scripts that you might have seen over the years, don't they usually say, "Hi, this is Ita, and I'm calling from Amazing Skinny Body Wraps. Is this a good time?"
Yes, yeah, they do.
And mismatching is going to cause that person to say what? No, it's not a good time.
Yeah.
Got the kids at home. If you walk into an office and you say, "Hi, I'm Joe with so and so insurance. Did I catch you at a good time?" No, I'm really busy. There's never a good time. But I'll tell you, when I pick up a phone and call somebody, I say, "Hey, this is John Michael. I just wanted to speak to so and so about for about 2 or 3 minutes. Am I interrupting you right now?" That person is going to want to mismatch me, whether I'm interrupting them or not. Their reflex is going to be, "No, you're not interrupting." Or I catch somebody on the street and I say, "Hey, is this a bad time for you?" They're going to want to mismatch me. They're going to say, "No, it's not a bad time for me," because all they want to do is reflexively contribute information. So if I'm assuming that it's a bad time, they're going to want to tell me, "No, it's a good time." And so that's my favorite way to stop mismatching, because it stops the first mismatch that becomes an obstacle when you're talking to someone on the phone. Now, in our business, the people on my team who are making 5 telephone calls a day, as crazy as that seems, are the ones who are enrolling a couple people every month. And they're doing that because they don't get on the phone and do a sales pitch. They get on the phone to get some information from the person who wanted more information. And say, "Hey, tell me what it is you're looking for, and what would a perfect solution look like for you?" And then they find whether that niche is going to be, "Let me put you on the Toxic Time Bomb webinar. Have you got time right now?" Or they put them on the business opportunity webinar, or they put them on the phone with me. Whatever the better fit is for that particular prospect. But we start the conversation by saying, "Am I interrupting you right now?" So that person will mismatch and say no. In their mind, when they mismatch, they also just spoke to the prefrontal cortex that we talked about a few weeks ago in their brain, and they told the prefrontal cortex, "This is a good time." And so by making this a good time in their heads, or perceptually with the prefrontal cortex, now their mind is more open to receive good information. They've now put themselves in a receptive state of mind. They've now begun to, without me having to do anything, without my having to do anything, if I'm going to use big grammar, they've made themselves more excited about the fact that you're on the phone. Instead of, here's a sales rep, I got to listen to their bullshit for another 10 minutes. So those are the keys that I think, right there, those are the mind shifts. Ask more questions. Build credibility. neutralize negatives. And if you do those things and you really focus on the fact that any person having a conversation with you, no matter what it's about, wants one thing, and that one thing is to feel like they are contributing information to that conversation. They want to feel like they're adding value. And so as long as you're focused on adding value, and you do that by doing those three things that I just talked about, those four things I just talked about, and as long as you're giving them an opportunity to add value, then the last piece of this puzzle takes care of itself, and that is momentum eliminates mismatching as well. So as you begin to do these things, there begins to develop a momentum. There's a sense of excitement, a sense of, wow, we're having a real conversation and this person really cares. And my best proof, social proof that this works is the fact that this is day 43 in a 200-day Mindshift Mastery Series, and you're here. Because the fact that you're here has nothing to do with my being a brilliant speaker, because you can ask, you can look at the videos. That I'm not. But every single day we're coming together. If all I did every single day was just to get up here and talk and not give you guys a chance to respond, not give you guys a chance to ask questions, I promise you that nobody would be left by day 43. Because that would be the most boring shit you've ever listened to in your life. You could pick up a book and get the same information, or you could watch YouTube and do it on your time and let somebody talk to you or talk at you. But what makes this work is that every single day I eliminate that pushback. Now there have been some days when I palpably felt you guys pushing back. There have been some times when just intuitively, when I'd write something in the blog and I knew before I even pressed publish the sentences in my blog post that were going to cause you to push back. Great example, every time I've ever done this class, when I talk about the reason that network marketing is so difficult is because network marketing products are always obscenely priced. The people that are in network marketing always push back because nobody wants to agree with that. But when we have a conversation and I allow them to give feedback, they always pretty much come around to recognizing, yeah, I know that people can buy the same exact product for more money. But what makes your product worth it is the value that you bring. And so as long as you're only selling product, you're never going to win. When you're selling you have every opportunity to win. Because if you're selling acai berry juice for $40 a bottle, but Mott's apple juice company is selling it for $7 at the grocery store, and you're willing to engage that person and encourage that person and be there and listen to that person, you've just contributed $40 worth of value to your service. Mott's apple juice sells them the apple juice, and they go to the grocery store next month. That customer has no one to talk to. They have no one to share their success with. They have no one to ask about detox symptoms. They have no one to celebrate their success with. So they're paying $40 to you for the same exact juice, but they're getting service with that. And you can put whatever price you want on a service. If you're going to charge $40, deliver $60 worth of service, and your product will sell itself. So that's a tie-in to yesterday's topic, yesterday's topic, and now, so we've got 5 minutes left. I promised I'd keep it at 15 minutes over. Any other questions? Any other comments you guys want to share on this? Did some of those ways to eliminate mismatching? Now play with them. This is the joy of this program, is that it's a sandbox, and so we give you guys all the toys, and then you get to play with them. And talk to us tomorrow and say, hey, I tried doing that. I started listening, and I recognized people pushing back, and I started to and I wasn't stressed when they started pushing back anymore, and I also started to give them an opportunity to contribute value to the conversation. What do you think?
Am I the only one on the microphone?
Yeah, you're the only one.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I did just state just now earlier on that I don't do scripts, and then your next sentence was you do scripts and you recruit. I don't. So I now know where I'm falling down. I've never done script. I've never been comfortable with doing scripts. I work.
Oh, your mic just went away. I'm not hearing you. Might be an internet problem. Okay, so well, I'll jump in. Keep trying because as soon as I start to hear some feedback on your mic, we'll let you continue. Um, but what I want to say too is when I talk about scripts, I don't believe in reading off of a script. I don't. In fact, I think it's one of the most horrible things that people do. So when I talk about scripts, I mean having sort of a formula that you work off of, and then making that formula your own. If you look at every one of the 10 calls that I'll make today when we hang up, they'll all seem to follow pretty much the same script, but none of them will be the same. None of them will be identical. But I will always say the same thing. Hi, this is John Michael. I see that you visited our website a while ago and that you were looking at exploring your options for home-based businesses. And I don't know if this is a good fit for you, but I know that it'll make more sense when we have a chance to talk. So get back to me, send me a text, or shoot me a voicemail message, and let me know if you're still looking. And that's essentially my script, but it may come out differently. I have people all the time say, "Hey, can you send me the script that you use?" No, I don't have a script in front of me. I don't work from a script. I have a formula that I use, and this is kind of my formula. But if you ask me the same question tomorrow, my formula is going to be a little bit different tomorrow. So have some fun with this, guys. Remember that even if you don't have a microphone or camera, that you can certainly participate. Oh, there you are. Yay.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Sorry, I'm sitting here wiggling this speaker. I'm not sure now. It might go any second. Yes, so I'm definitely going to be trying these now with the script, basically. Well, the skeleton type of thing,
Yeah.
as you said. I hate reading from
Yeah.
a sheet of paper when you're talking to somebody. But on that note, I've never even done a skeletal script at all. So I'm going to try doing that, and this is going to be great help, all the notes I've taken, so that I will be able to put questions in there, and I will be able to give the other person time to speak, and then they'll be able as well to find out their own stand on the subject when I ask questions, because as you brought out a week ago, they sometimes don't know themselves until the question is actually asked where they stand on the subject. So yes, I am definitely going to be using the mismatching notes that I got down today.
Fantastic. And one of my best recommendations for creating a skeleton script or a formula is, and I recommend this whether you choose to do a script approach or not, and that is that whenever I have a conversation with somebody, whether it's about the product or it's excuse me, about the opportunity itself, I always conduct that conversation as an interview. And so when you're formulating your script or your framework, do it as though you're formulating an interview. If it's about your product, you're formulating an interview to determine whether your product is a good fit for that prospect. If it's about your opportunity, you're formulating an interview to determine whether that person is a good fit for your team. Two things happen. One is that you position yourself as an authority when you do that, so that person is a little more likely, their credibility automatically gets established, because in every other situation somebody has done a sales pitch to them. You are interviewing them. And so that puts you in the position of control, and it also puts you in the mindset of asking questions, because interviews are not you talking, they're you asking questions. So if you do it, and so everything that I do, people who've gone to my calendar to schedule time on the calendar know that it says calendly.com/Dr. Salvato/ interview. Because I consider every time my telephone rings to be an interview. If it's not an interview, I will only be on the phone with that person for about 5 minutes. If somebody calls me, and one of my good friends called me, actually it was Diana, yesterday, to share some information with me, I still approach that conversation like an interview because in my mind, if I'm a servant leader, I'm there to do two things. One is to listen, and two is to listen for ways in which I can add value to that person's life. If there are problems that that person's sharing with me, how can I help to solve those problems? If there are, accomplishments that person made, how can I contribute joy to that person's life? So even when somebody's calling you, it can still be an interview. When my friends call me on the phone, I approach my friend's call as an interview. This is how can John Michael add joy or value to that person's life? Because if I can't, then what purpose do I have to be in a relationship with that person? So I'm going to wrap it up with this. I had a situation in recent days where an individual who needs my help and wants my help and absolutely knows in their minds that I'm the best person for the particular job, the best person to help them accomplish what they want want to accomplish, allowed their ego and their immaturity to get in the way. And so for 3 or 4 days now, they've been pouting and acting like a little prima donna in grade school. And as a result of that, they're costing themselves money every single day. And so the last thing that I said to that person was, when you're ready to move beyond this frame of mind, because I can't control somebody's childishness, I can't control their temperament and their spoiled little immaturity. They're not my husband or wife, so if they can get away with their temper tantrums and maybe get their way with their husband, they can get away with their temper tantrums and maybe get what they want with their son or daughter, or brother or sister, but they're not going to get away with it with me because I don't deal with children. I don't have children. I don't want children. I don't deal with children. If I wanted to deal with children, I would be in that field. I deal with adults. So when that person's ready to grow up and act like an adult, and do the right thing for their business, then we can have a perfectly good conversation. And then all of their bad behavior of the past is behind us. So I'm going to leave you today with this. Somebody might have pushed back and might have been inappropriate, it might have been argumentative with you in the past. Leave it in the past. Take these skills you learned today and find out how you can be of service to them today. All right, guys, I love and appreciate every single one of you. Thanks for spending time with us, especially for spending an extra 18 minutes of time with us. And be sure to comment on the blog, barefootmillionairemastermind.com/Mindshift. You can ask more questions there, share with us some of the things that you discover as you apply these things. And tomorrow is, we're going to start talking about the herd mentality. Tomorrow is Friday. That is not what our topic is for tomorrow. Tomorrow is Inner Alchemy at 1:30 Eastern Time, and we're going to sort of wrap up our week and focus, really on mindset tomorrow. Then next week we'll pick it back up with the herd mentality. We'll talk to you soon, guys. Stay in the moment. Be grateful for what you've got, and always remember the best is yet to come. We'll talk soon.